But what was interesting is that the farm and ranch stores were deemed essential. So a lot of the farm and ranch stores had their best years ever during COVID. And we kind of rode that wave too. Like everyone was outside building a chicken coop and
That's
workwear.
interesting.
We weren't trying to sell party dresses, right? Like we were selling functional product. And so both our DTC stayed really healthy and wholesale. I think maybe where we had a downtrending wholesale trend was offset by the performance of like the farm and ranch accounts because their business was just booming during COVID.
Welcome to the Growth Mavericks podcast, where we know that entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy. It's about stamina. It's about disrupting your default and getting comfortable being uncomfortable so you don't burn out before you break through. I'm your host, Adam Callinan. Let's get to work. Today, we are talking with Sara DeLuca. She is the co-founder of Dovetail Workwear. Sara spent years in super high-end apparel in New York before moving to Portland, where she hired two landscapers named Kate and Kyle. She kept hearing them complain that there were no functional workwear clothes for women. They did not exist. So it was basically just all men's stuff that was shrunk down and made pink, she says. So she said, let me make you a pair of pants. And this company, Dovetail, was born. They tested a bunch of prototypes on 50 women across various types of outdoor trades, generally speaking. And they launched out of a garage and a bunch of trunk shows and crushed pre-orders at outdoor retailer in 2018. Stores started placing orders and things have been moving from there. We get into the complexity of SKUs and running a company like this that has a lot of SKUs and how SKUs can creep, how that changes as we get into getting really specific on sizes from like 0 to 24 across all the colors and all the things, how they dealt with COVID and how it was actually quite good for the brand, which I know COVID was not good for a lot of things, but in the world of retail, when you were selling products inside of stores that were deemed essential, that was good for the brand. We also get into how they're really being deliberate about building the business in a way that can last and sort of taking the stairs instead of the elevator, which is really a theme that keeps coming up with podcast guests here. So let's get into it. You're in Portland, Oregon. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Have you always been there?
Yep.
Born and raised?
No, I moved here from New York
Okay.
in like 2006. But Dovetail's always been here, and I figure since 2006, I'm pretty much a Portlander.
Yeah, that's pretty good. What was the motive for the move literally all the way across the country?
I think we were really looking for a change of lifestyle. We were living and working in New York, working being the operative word. And I had my oldest daughter, and it wasn't really sustainable from a lifestyle perspective. And so we just decided to jump ship and we moved to Portland.
What were you doing professionally in New York?
In New York, I was working in apparel. I have a long
Okay.
background in apparel. At the time, I was working with a couple of high-end denim brands. Exciting, fun, loved the product, but traveling all the time. And my husband was working in a law firm in New York. And so we were just both sort of on this hamster wheel of exciting careers, but challenging to have any kind of life-work balance.
Yeah. So you head to Portland. Did you stay in apparel in Oregon?
I took a couple of years off and then started working again in apparel, doing a lot of contract work for companies back in New York. And that was great for several years because my kids were small and I gave me a lot of flexibility. And then I would just travel back to New York like once a quarter. And then in about 2016 is when I met the two co-founders of Dovetail and started working on Dovetail seriously, and then really took on Dovetail full time in about 2017.
Okay. Let's dive into that. Will you explain to the listener what Dovetail is, and then let's go into Genesis story.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Dovetail is a women's workwear brand, and we're really made for anyone who is doing something physical. So they may be in the trades, but they may be an environmental scientist. They may be um, a fisherwoman. You name it. Like the the women who wear our product are a huge array. But ultimately, they look for something that's performance based that helps them when they're working functional pockets, great fit, rugged fabrics, and just not really having to compromise function and style. Most of our customers still want to look good, feel like themselves, but also have um, apparel that works with them, so to speak, not against them.
And when you went into that, was that concept already alive and you joined it, or were you part of that founding story?
We were really the founding story. At the time we started, so Kate and Kyle, my two co-founders, had a landscaping business, and I had hired them to work on a couple properties for me. And I would sit out on the back deck when they took their water breaks, take a break from my work, and listen to them talk about lack of functional workwear for women. They just couldn't find it. You couldn't find it in stores at all. You could order it online. Some of the big brands did have women's lines, but they tended to be thinner fabrics. Fit was not great. Um, really limited sizing options. So Kyle, for example, is petite. She was just buying boys' jeans because she couldn't even find her size. And just not a lot out there. There wasn't even like if you went into like a farm and ranch kind of store, you wouldn't, there was no women's workwear section. It just didn't exist. Um, so we started prototyping um, really based on the work that Kate and Kyle were doing and building a uniform that would work for them. So they wanted something where they could do all the physical aspects of their job, unloading the truck, laying the quarter minus gravel, digging the trenches. But then they wanted to be able to turn around and meet with a contractor or a client, be taken seriously, look professional. And so that was a great, fun challenge for me coming from the industry. I was like, I would love to make you guys a pair of pants. And so that's how we started. And that goes to the heart and soul of our mission really is serious work apparel for women and inclusive sizing and quality materials and like a certain craft to what we're making that resonates with her because a lot of the women we work with are craftswomen themselves. Um, and that's really what started the brand.
What an amazing coming together of opportunity and experience.
Very much so. I think Kate and Kyle were, we started wearing the prototypes and people came out of the woodwork, because the industry is small and women talk to each other and they're like, "Hey, what are you wearing? Oh my God, I need a pair of those." Or, you know, um, people would literally stop us on the street. And yeah, it was fun to build something that was so um, really solving a problem. I think for me, in my experience in apparel, like I had a fun career. I've worked on a lot of really cool products, but I had never had the chance to just really, truly solve a problem. Like this thing doesn't exist. Let's make something that fills that need. So it's kind of a very, very like great timing for me. And I felt like I could take the culmination of all of my experience and bring it to this brand and really build something cool.
Yeah. I mean, as we were talking earlier before I hit record, I live in Montana, and my wife and I, we spend an incredible amount of time out in the woods. And it's like the stuff that she ends up having to wear. She's also, like 5'7" and petite, has a lot of the same kind of problems. Like it's basically we're limited to the things you can buy at REI, which is okay. I guess it's better than what you can buy at Murdoch's, which is our which is our local like ranch store in Montana. I think the women's department is probably entirely comprised of Wrangler and Carhartt, which is what I think of when I think of like workwear. I think of like Carhartt overalls, which are, I mean, they serve their purpose, but they're clearly not.
Yeah, I think being able to go in with a focus on fit and being a women's only brand, you know, it's nice. We didn't have to sit in a boardroom and argue about revenue streams, or we could just focus on women from the beginning, no questions asked. And fit really is at the sort of the top of our priority list because it's been such a challenge. And, a lot of the fabrics we work with are heavyweight canvases or low stretch. And so to get something to fit right is like a never ending challenge, especially because there's such a wide diversity of body shapes and sizes. But it's a good challenge. We like it. And we have tried to incorporate certain types of stretch to help us with that, just to, again, accommodate different body types and shapes. So
So when you made the first, going back, I don't know if you want to call it prototype or first version of the products, you started wearing the products, people started liking the product. Did you go straight to online, or how did you launch the brand itself?
so we wanted to test with the amount of interest we were getting, we thought, let's test this hypothesis. So we got a group of about 50 women together and we made them prototypes in their sizes. And I wanted to look at not just pattern, right? Like, is it going to fit the size 18 the same way it fits the size 2? But I also wanted to kind of test the pocketing functionality because we had really built that around landscaping. And I wanted to make sure that it had sort of some universal truth across different types of tools being used or things being carried in people's pockets. And so we did that test with about 50 women from all different occupations. And then a subset of those we took back to Kate's garage at the time and we filmed them and asked them about their experience with the pants. How did they fit? Did they like the pockets? How did they feel in the pants? And I think it was really during those interviews that it was like that aha moment where it wasn't just about the pants. It wasn't about the physical pant. It was about how they felt in the pants and what they felt empowered to do in the pants and how it made them feel seen because someone was actually making product for them. That we were like, okay, this is really cool, first of all. Like, we've landed on something that's not just a compelling product and a market opportunity, but we've landed on a mission, right? And it was sort of that trifecta and that moment where we're like, let's seriously pursue this. So from there, we did kind of our own version of a Kickstarter. We took pre-orders to fund the first production run. And we just launched with a single style called the Maven in 3 different fabrics. And we, hit the ground like we were at every possible venue where we could set up a trunk show and have people fit product and place an order. So we were really very, very much sort of a lot of showing up, talking to people. It was actually great from a product standpoint because we were getting really good feedback early on. And also just testing the market, right? Like, were people interested? And people were. So we ran that first production run. And from there, we kind of launched online and built out a larger collection and then took the product to outdoor retailer in 2018 with, more of like, we had multiple silhouettes, we had overalls, and more of a complete uniform.
So by then you had, or I mean, if we back up in that pre-order situation, did you or someone on the team like pop up a Shopify store that was taking pre-orders, or how were you organizing that if it wasn't through a
We did have a
crowdfunding campaign?
Shopify site taking pre-orders.
So you were going like full blown guerrilla marketing style, like trade show, local art fairs and shows,
Exactly.
anywhere you could open a trunk, which is exceptional, especially in today's world. That was ahead of the curve. That stuff is so valuable now, more than it kind of ever has been in this world of AI. And you were sending people to the Shopify store to place pre-orders, or were you able to just sell it out of the trunk at those events?
We didn't have the first order in yet, so we had basically a full size run, and people could try on their size, and we'd figure out their inseam, and then we would either place the order directly online, or we would send them home with like a postcard and a discount code and say, go ahead and order from home.
That's brilliant. And then as you then move forward, so roughly what year would that have been? Like
That was
17?
2017.
17. Okay. So as you fast forward then and you get into 2018 to outdoor retailer, what happened in between that period of time? Because I mean, I have been to outdoor retailer a couple of times to my last company, Bottle Keeper. So I like, it's a massive show. It's like a big thing. That's a pretty big step, in what is effectively like year two. How did you get to that point?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So we, along the way, we joined forces with a company here in Portland called Portland Product Works, and they were basically a consumer goods platform. At that time, focused mostly on footwear and a couple of footwear licensing deals. But that partnership enabled us to really expand upon our access to capital, logistics, operations, and really enabled us to create that, more built out collection and be able to go to outdoor retailer. We were in the, can't remember what that section was called, but the, new up and coming company section.
Yeah, we,
So
we did that too early
we
on. Yeah.
weren't like on the top floor with, a build out like Carhartts or anything, but we had a great booth and it was really interesting. We had planned to offer wholesale. 2019 was kind of our goal when we went to that show, but people loved the brand and really understood it. And so we started shipping wholesale as early as 2018 just because stores were asking for it earlier. Um, but it definitely accelerated our growth because it just gave us exposure to all these accounts. And, at that time, Outdoor Retailer 2 is a great, marketing space, right? Like PR, editors coming through. Um, so those first two shows were really important for us.
Yeah, we always wanted to be in the new upcoming space. Like as for, in a trade show like that, we didn't want to be on the floor with all the stuff and the noise and the big fancy ridiculous. We always wanted to be in the new up and coming. So we would like launch new products just so we could go and be like in the new up and coming space, because that's where all the editors are. Like that's where the PR people are. That's where the publishers go. That's where the buyers are going to find new things.
Yeah, no, it is. It's where a lot of the dynamic new product and creation is happening for sure.
So did you land big retailers through that, or were you mostly then distributing through, smaller boutiques, or how did that work for you?
Um, I would say both. That really set the stage for some larger accounts bringing us on. One of our first accounts was Coastal, which they're kind of like your Murdochs here in the Pacific Northwest, but it was a big account for us. And then some larger accounts, like we started talking to REI early on at even that first show. I remember them coming by and we started conversations. At that time, they were really making a push for inclusive sizing, so they were excited about a workwear option that already had that sort of embedded in its DNA. And then a lot of specialty outdoor stores were really interested in the product because they have a customer that's really crossover, like the whole world is crossover now. Like outdoor and work are no longer two separate segments. They're the same person. They may just be doing different things throughout their day, or they may mint a product that sort of meets them for all of the things that they're doing. And so all three of those types of accounts, we really were able to get a decent number under our belts, which helped us because, right, we could order for wholesale and have a nice order, and then we would just build on that order for DTC.
Do you mean from an inventory purchasing standpoint?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, got it. So
I
as
think
you're doing that, how was your revenue aligned? Was it mostly D2C and then you were supplementing it with wholesale, or was it the opposite?
we were probably 50-50 in the beginning. I think now DTC has definitely, we still do wholesale, but DTC moved ahead over the years, anywhere from 60%, 70%, depending on the climate. I would say we're now at maybe 65-35 or 70-30, with DTC being the predominant. But at that time, it was more of an even split.
And then you go into, the second half of 2019 and 2020 and 2021 with all the COVID, all that thing they called COVID, and wholesale kind of shut off. I assume you had a similar experience? How did that work for you? Quick break, and this one is personal. Your ROAS is lying to you. I know this because mine lied to me for years. When I was building Bottle Keeper, I'd see a 4x ROAS or 5x ROAS, and I think we were absolutely crushing it. When we get to the end of the month, we'd see our P&L, and we barely broke even. Now, the dashboards and the platforms, all the things would say one thing, The bank account and the P&L said something entirely different. They were disconnected. The problem wasn't ads. It wasn't marketing efficiency. It's that those output metrics like ROAS and MER, they don't account for all the stuff that crushes your margins. These are things that are shipping and fulfillment, credit card fees, Shopify fees, the marketing agency we're using, the paid media itself. That's the only thing that ROAS accounts for. But there's all these other expenses. So I built this framework that starts with net profit and works backwards to tell you exactly how to spend ad budget and how the ROAS needs to perform in order to hit your net profit target. These aren't benchmarks. It's literally your numbers and expenses based on what's happening in your business. And best of all, I'm giving these secrets away for free in a profit masterclass that I created recently. It's the exact system I used at BottleKeeper to get to over 60 million in total sales with just 4 employees and 0 investors, ultimately to a private equity acquisition. So you can find this profit masterclass at pentane.com. But for now, let's get back to the show.
Well, we were really worried, and a lot of wholesale did shut off. But what was interesting is that the farm and ranch stores were deemed essential. So a lot of the farm and ranch stores had their best years ever during COVID. And we kind of rode that wave too. Like everyone was outside building a chicken coop and
That's
workwear.
interesting.
We weren't trying to sell party dresses, right? Like we were selling functional product. And so both our DTC stayed really healthy and wholesale. I think maybe where we had a downtrending wholesale trend was offset by the performance of like the farm and ranch accounts because their business was just booming during COVID.
Yeah, you effectively eliminate all the competition.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's crazy. I never thought of that. I mean, what we were selling would not have been in a farm and ranch really store. And in BottleKeeper, we said no to retail from start until 2018. And we had built up, mainly because I didn't want to hire anybody to manage it. And so by the time we went into retail, we had a wait list of thousands of stores, and we went from 0 to 5,000 stores in the first year just
Wow.
in 2018. And then COVID hit and all of wholesale stopped for us. It was growing. It was going to be a really big part of our profitability cycle in 2019, 2020. But our direct to consumer side crushed. It did incredibly well because we had all these people sitting at home on their Facebook accounts. Half the country couldn't ship product because the state they were in, the warehouses had been closed, and we were just lucky that our warehouses were in a state that didn't get closed. So like the customer acquisition costs, I mean, they cut down. I don't know. I'm going to totally make this number up, but it was a lot. It was like 75% down. We did really, really well from a business perspective in the direct consumer space in that time. Very interesting time. So in this sort of new world, you're running at about 70-30 or 65-35 direct consumer. Are you selling on Amazon as well, or are you just on Shopify?
We have been selling on Amazon through a third party who manages the inventory and all of the storefronts and all of the fun Amazon interactions. So yeah, it is one of our distribution channels. It hasn't been the biggest, but we just switched partners, so we'll see how that goes in the future.
How do you deal with managing SKU creep and SKU growth in an apparel company?
That's a great question. It's incredibly challenging, especially when you want to be inclusive in your sizing. So for us, we're a women's pant company, so numeric sizing is really important, especially when you're not dealing with like a yoga pant, which you can alpha size. But we're running anywhere from 000 up to size 24. And then we have 4 inseams, sometimes 5 inseams. So just in a single style, your SKU is huge. And then, we trying to, from that first show where we built out, a couple of main pant silhouettes, some overalls, a couple tops, we've really grown the lines because our customer wants it, right? They want super lightweight stuff for the summer or when they're working in hot conditions, but they still need kind of full coverage. They want stuff in the winter that's not overly bulky, but still has thermoregulation and wind resistance. And enables them to move and work and, take off layers. Um, and silhouettes too. I think we've continually kind of started to build the line out so it meets, some women want a looser silhouette that just enables them to move. Um, some of our other customers, especially in the younger demographic, want something that's, like a wide leg or a high rise or something that sort of fits this lifestyle component to, their normal wardrobe. Um, and then, of course, we run everything from like a canvas to a lightweight ripstop to denims. We've tried to build in, we really love fabric innovation. So that's been a really fun area for us to differentiate ourselves. Bringing in performance technologies from the outdoor side of the world and putting them in workwear fabrications. Um, that just hasn't really existed, especially for women. Some of the big companies will do it for their men's lines, but you rarely see it in their women's lines. So things that bump up durability, cooling technology, those kinds of things that are so important to workwear because your industrial athlete is not dissimilar to your other athlete. A lot of the like ability to move, sweat, um, UPF protection, it's all the same, right? It's just a different application.
Do you have, or I assume you must have something, or it would just explode out of control when a single product can have 120 different SKUs,
Yeah,
SKUs within it just to cover size and shape. Do
we
you have systems to manage all of that
we do.
internally?
We try to like pick best-selling styles to run the full size run. New styles where we're not really sure we'll run more of a limited size run and maybe 2 inseams instead of 4. We have a couple of products where we've started to experiment with alpha sizing. We did a work legging. We have like a work skirt. A couple of styles that lended themselves to alpha sizing, which makes it a lot easier. Kind of a jogger that's also alpha sized. But it's hard. I mean, I just met with our operations people and looking at our new spring 27 line, and I'm like, where am I? And they're like, you're 20% up. And I'm like, oh no. So, it just means tighter editing, because we're our own worst enemy if we get overextended with SKUs, in terms of just inventory management. And also it hurts our supplier relationships. It creates inefficiencies all the way through, um, at the factory level.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to do that. It was hard for us to do that at Bottle Keeper, and we had 3 products across 15 colors, or not even, 6 colors, and 3 on this and 12 on that, and trying to keep the SKUs under control. I've always thought it fascinating to try to figure out the systems that it would require to figure out how to do that in an apparel company like that.
Well, we look closely at things that I looked at when I worked at bigger companies, like, adoption ratio, development to adoption ratio. Are you overdeveloping? Um, which, all those metrics when I worked for the bigger companies, I understood them and I understood why they existed, but it was, I think, only in working in a very my own environment with Dovetail where I'm like, okay, this is kind of make it or break it. Like, we don't want to spend $1 zillion on development and then only adopt a few items. And the SKU count's a similar story where it's like, it would be nice to say yes to everything, but um, I think trying to always come back to the why of what we're putting out there. Is it, are we solving a problem or is it just another cool shirt jack? That would be like a rhetorical question, right? Or
Yeah.
also just, yeah, being strategic about even our fabrics, using them across multiple styles so we can leverage, because the everything has a backstream implication. So it's SKU count, inventory management at the warehouse, but it's also supply chain, and especially in uncertain times where we try to keep a stockpile of fabrics. Are we doing that in a smart way so we don't overbuy in a certain fabric and then end up with excess fabric, which is better than excess garments, but still it's a problem. So we've tried to be very cautious and strategic, maybe overly so. Like, we'd rather sell out than have extra, if that makes sense.
It does. There is tremendous value in scarcity. There is, like, having running out of stock on something can be really valuable. It's painful, but really valuable.
Yeah, yeah.
It's certainly better than the alternative. I think about, I'll try not to nerd out too much down this because it gets really nerdy really fast, but like cash conversion cycles with apparel like that and the decision making around what to keep and what to, burn out and sell through because it's for too long just must be really complex with that many products or that many like individual components and SKUs and lines.
Yeah, I mean, we have a pretty dialed system. We meet monthly and we'll look at like an inventory list and say, what do we think we want to carry forward and what do we want to mark down and clear out? We're lucky in that we don't have a lot in that bucket, but we watch it religiously and probably we would have more if we weren't as conservative as we are on our inventory buys. But we're also a brand where a lot of our product is carryover, so that is super nice. We can, instead of having to place like a big purchase order and then hold the inventory, we'll like, over the year we'll cut 4 times and we'll just watch sales and then we just replenish as we need to versus having to issue a big purchase order and hope that it sells out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it like explodes my brain with the added levels of complexity across that many products. So bravo. That's great to hear that working as it is. So what's next for the business and product? Is this a thing that you're building to sell, building to generationally hand down, or is that something you all talk and think about?
Um, I think it's something we talk and think about, but I don't know that we have a precise answer for you. I think we're open to whatever the future holds. We like this business, we like what we're doing, so we're certainly not anxious to, sell. And there's also so many pitfalls, as you know, what can happen to brands when they sell, especially if you're trying to build something that I think for us, we've always wanted to be a household name and something that endures, and build something that will endure. So that is really important to us. So I would say TBD. I don't know. I'm not sure where we're headed. I think for now, though, we're excited about continuing to build the business in a really sustainable way, you know, growing year on year. We're profitable, but we aren't trying to, exponential growth can be great, but it can also be really dangerous. So I think we're trying to pick sort of a middle path. And we're definitely looking at, expanding our categories, really looking at um, the women who wear our product in sort of their full lives and what they need for various aspects of their life, and potentially, bring in some subset categories that are adjacent to our core work product. We've already started doing that, but lean into that a little bit more. And I think when I think about it too, I'm a little bit like you. I nerd out on entrepreneurs and businesses and how they grow and, the missteps they make or the strategic things they do that actually really help them grow. And just thinking about how to stay authentic to our woman. I don't want to lose those core women who helped us build this brand, even as we expand our product offering. And so how to do that in a way that, you know, keeps our core customer, continues to provide her product that works for her and that she likes. And then also like look at that next ring out on the customer base and say, how can we reach her? Or for our existing customer, how can we fulfill different parts of her needs? So, but I'm on the product side, so I'm
Yeah.
probably going to always be a bit product focused in my answer to that question.
No, I mean, I think that's a great answer, honestly. I mean, a big part of all of this and talking about it generally revolves around building that durability, like the durability in the business that isn't is going to be very, very hard to keep on the rails when you hit that exponential point because it's not going to stay exponential forever. And generally the things that happen that line up to that exponential point can be really dangerous for the long term to your point, I interviewed somebody recently out of Australia, Andy Falshaw, and we spent a lot of time talking about this exact concept of building something durable. He referred to it as taking the stairs instead of the elevator, like just doing it step by step over time, and it will take a lot longer and be a lot less of that rocket ship. But that's not bad, and frankly, I think it's good. I think I've always looked at any business that I ever wanted to be in, that as long as you're focused on building value in as many different silos of the business as you can, someone will always want to buy it. That doesn't mean you want to sell it. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
you're open to selling it. Doesn't, I don't think you have to really define like my intended outcome thing. But I think the way that you look at value from the customer, which is an incredibly important value point, being profitable is a value. That's a point of value. Like intellectual property can be a really important point of value. It was for us, is a beautiful way to think about building a company that can withstand all these like crazy ups and downs.
Yeah, I love that analogy of taking the stairs instead of the elevator.
Yeah, I did too. It struck me, which is why it stands out. So along that line of durability, it's a perfect segue. One of the other things that I really enjoy talking about with other operators are the things that you have done and or continue to do that help you and or the people around you to remain durable. Because even if we're trying to do the slow and steady wins the race, it's still a roller coaster. There are still ups and downs. So how have you grown to deal with that?
That's a great question because I think, and I'm sure you experience this when you're working in a smaller brand, everybody is doing everything and everyone is pretty much, we're a scrappy team trying to accomplish a lot. And um, I think for us, one thing that helps is that we are very mission based. So pretty much everyone on the team is really dedicated to the mission of the brand, which makes some of those ups and downs or that daily grind not so bad. We stay very closely in front of the women who wear our product. So a lot of wear testing and conversations from design inception all the way through product development. And the women we work with are so incredibly inspiring. I mean, I think they are one of the main reason that I show up every day and I'm excited because they're just doing inspirational, aspirational things. And it's really fun to talk to them and it's really fun to make product for them. And so I think, yeah, it probably comes down to sort of believing in the mission and then getting to work on really cool stuff. Like for me, from a product standpoint, it's kind of a dream come true. And I think for a lot of the folks on the team, it's just, you know, it's stuff that we wouldn't otherwise get exposed to. And yeah, it's fun is probably a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, having the centralized team component there and the mission driven focus is so important. Do you look at these things? I mean, you're in an entirely different space physically and professionally than when you were in New York. How did you deal with that in New York? Or is that, I mean, as you mentioned earlier, kind of why you left New York?
Um, well, I learned so much for the brands that I worked for in New York. Just learning about like really paying attention to fabric as sort of the cornerstone of both the quality of the product you make, but also the aesthetic. And I worked with some amazing designers who were like, I don't know, just taught me to think outside the box. But I guess the thing that Dovetail does that nobody else did was we didn't try to sit in a room and imagine what she wants. We didn't try to imagine, like, what's gonna be the color of the season, like, those things are all great, don't get me wrong, and they were important for me to learn, but, um, to actually just ask the question of, "What do you need?" and have somebody answer it, and then try to solve for that problem. It's such a different way of doing product development, and yeah, I was never able to do that in any other brand.
Need versus the want. There's a lot trapped in there. That's great. Amazing. Where do you want people to find you or to find Dovetail? We'll put links and everything in the show notes.
Um, our website, dovetailworkwear.com, is a great place to start. Our Instagram page. Um, we're on all the, social media venues, but Instagram is probably our most interactive, and we have a great audience there. Um, yeah, come check us out.
Awesome. I really, really appreciate your time, Sarah. This is really, really fun learning about you and Dovetail, and keep up the good work. My wife will appreciate it.
Yeah, then definitely hook us up, please, Adam. That would be great.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. A huge thanks to our guests today. Don't forget, this is powered by Pentane Financial and Advertising Command Center for Consumer Brands. Stop what you're doing, put your phone down, walk away from the computer screen, go outside, get some air, do something hard, push your limits, get uncomfortable, become more durable and more resilient, create the stamina required to get through those entrepreneurial barriers, stay in the game for as long as you can, and we will see you next time.